Hey, what's up guys? Sanch here, and welcome back to the channel. Today's episode, we're actually going to be doing a little bit of leg training. So even though I'm doing ACFT PREP, APFT PREP, whichever one you want to call it, we're doing both training programs, and we're incorporating it into my own training program. But even though we're mainly focusing on the APFT, ACFT, we are still training legs. We're still trying to maintain some leg size, some definition. So we actually are just warming up here for the squats. Now, with kind of like how my training's been evolving lately and focusing more on bodybuilding and taking the ego out of training, I've actually focused mostly on doing Smith pressing for most of my exercises. But if you guys can see here, I'm just warming up my legs, and then right here I'm actually just stretching out my hips and allowing them to open up more, and you'll see why in a second. So for this iteration of the Smith rack squat, we're actually going to be doing more of a wider, I wouldn't say sumo because my feet aren't really that wide out, but I'm allowing my knees to really open up. I'm allowing my hips to really sink into everything and really stretch out those legs and those quads. Notice I'm trying to stay, for the most part, I'm trying to keep these reps pretty slow and controlled. I'm not trying to bounce out of the hole too much because I really want to focus on squeezing the muscle and keeping everything isolated. But that last set was, I think it was just 25s, and then I kind of go up 25 and then 45, 45 and a 25, and then I'll do 2 plates in the very end. And I know some of you might be asking, you know, Sanch, why don't you use the barbell? Why don't you do, you know, barbell squats? That's what all the bodybuilders, what all the great bodybuilders have used throughout the years. And to that I'll say, I actually feel it a lot more when I'm doing this Smith rack here. I'm able to just really slow it down and squeeze. And I mean, you can see just how exhausted and taxing these movements are for me while I'm doing them. If you guys are having those questions, I would definitely encourage you to try it out for yourselves. I know for me personally, I'm really enjoying these Smith squats. So definitely try them out for yourselves. All right, so getting into the next part of the video, we're actually doing the leg press. I don't know if there's a fancy one or a fancy name for this version, but there's a few different options at this gym, but this one's personally my favorite. It doesn't really give as much pressure and tension on my lower back as some of the other versions. And something I also want to point out and definitely focus on is watch how my knees are pretty much always going to about the same spot. I'm constantly allowing my quads to have the same tension, the same ROM or range of motion. So I think in the long run, that's definitely going to help for when we get up into the higher weights. Definitely when you'll see later in the video, it all stays the same range of motion. Also, an important point to point out, it's a lot of points in one sentence. Also, notice where my feet are. They are what I would consider a narrow stance. It's also a lower stance. So you have that massive foot plate that you can rest your feet on. And you can have your feet higher and you can have your feet lower. You can have your feet closer together and you can have your feet farther apart. For me, if I'm going to be starting off with a wide stance squat, I'm going to follow that up with a lower narrow gripped, or it's not really grip because I'm squatting with my feet, not using the hands, but a closer stanced and lower leg press. And for me, that hits my quads a lot better than, say, the wider stance. So especially if it's going to be a wider stance leg press, I feel like you're going to be hitting, it doesn't make sense, or it's counterintuitive, but if you're going to be hitting a wider stance, you're going to be hitting your inner part of your quads a lot better, and vice versa. With inner grip or inner stance, you're going to be hitting your outer sweep of the quads, which for the most part, that's my main focus. Definitely one of my takeaways from my last show was I thought that my hamstrings were really watery and you couldn't really see anything. That could be from conditioning, and it also could be from lack of quad, or that could also come from a lack of hamstring development. So if you want to hit your hamstrings while doing your leg press, make sure you put your feet higher up. That's going to definitely target your hamstrings a lot more than a lower stanced leg press. And of course, I usually finish or start my leg days with leg extension and leg curls. Normally I'll start the leg day with leg extensions to pump the blood up in the quads, so I'm able to really get a better mind-to-muscle connection. But lately I've been just doing them at the end. When I come in for leg day, I'm very focused on doing squats and leg press. Everything else kind of gets put in the back burner. And that'll do it for pretty much this leg session. I really do appreciate you guys stopping in and watching the video. Make sure you leave a like if you enjoyed this style of content. And if you guys are not subscribed already, make sure you guys do. A large variety of the viewers that watch these videos are not subscribed. So I'd appreciate if you join the army. I appreciate if you guys join this family. And that's pretty much it, guys. So like I said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.